Mark Walter with Sun Multisport Events, bringing you our third episode of the Sun Multisport Events PACT series, which is designed in these difficult times where everyone's sort of had their life turned upside down. We kind of made this PACT. And the PACT is to stay positive, keep adapting, remain connected, and continue training. That's what we in this endurance community, I think, need to do in these times. And so what I've had the honor of is really talking to some of the leaders and influencers in our community about how they're keeping that pact, staying positive, adapting, etc. And so I'm today with, have the honor to have Meredith Atwood, the swim bike mom, joining us. Hi, Meredith. Thanks for coming.
Hey there. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You too. For those of you who don't know Meredith, Meredith has a very great background. She's formerly a lawyer, then caught the triathlon bug and went out and has now completed 4 Ironman triathlons. Went out and wrote the book Triathlon for the Every Woman, which has been a bestseller. She's now a motivational speaker, podcaster, certified coach, and has also just recently come out with her newest book, The Year of No Nonsense. So I'm really excited to have you here with me today, Meredith. I think as I've been going through this process, I feel like you're probably in a way more prepared to deal with this major curveball we've all been thrown as probably more than a lot of people. So again, thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if anyone can be prepared for this. This has been amazing. That's the only, I try and use that word versus a more negative word. Like, this has been amazing.
Yeah, I know, right? We're all, I think, starting to hear a lot of the same, not cliches, but same descriptions. And yeah, I think we just got to take a fresh look and fresh perspective. And so why don't we just jump right in? And I think the number one thing I think for everybody is trying to stay positive. And I think in our community, you know, of endurance sports, whether you're a runner or a triathlete or a swimmer or whatever it may be, I think a lot of those people are a little more wired to be positive, but not everyone. And certainly when something like this happens, it really tests your ability to stay positive. So
yeah,
you staying positive and how are you helping others too? Because I know, you know, you talk to a lot of people as well.
Yeah. And I think staying positive when you're kind of a type A endurance personality is easier maybe than other people, but at the same time, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you're positive about racing, you're positive about training, about getting out there, and then that is gone, right? Not necessarily all of it, but the goal, the race, the carrot in front of you. And so staying positive has to become a creative process. And so where we may have some positivity in our mindset, sort of built in or hardwired or developed over the years, I think it requires a new kind of muscle, if you will, to stretch, to be positive when everything has changed, when your expectations, and I mean, expectations are such a troublesome thing to begin with. But when you expect you're going to race and you expect the world is going to not be upside down and it is upside down and the races are canceled, it is hard to stay positive. And so some of the things that I'm doing to stay positive is totally, absolutely mindset training. I am forcing myself to find the good in every day. And some days it's great. Some days, you know, the kids are bathed and they're doing their homework and my workout is fine and my husband is nice. And then other days I'm like, there's going to be a murder and it is going to happen in my house today and no one will know because everyone is social distancing. It'll be fine. And so it really does come down to mindset. And I think the main thing is admitting how we feel. I'm in a house of 4 people. We're in a very small house. And to be open with each other, like, hey, guess what? I kind of feel like I'm in the dumps today. I am not being particularly nice to myself, and I may not be nice to you. And I found that leads to a more positive house because everyone is being honest. And I think fake positivity is the hardest thing to sort of fool yourself into. It's really hard to say, everything's great. The world's not upside down. Everything's going to be fine. no matter how much you say that to yourself, your body and your mind is going to reject it, because it's going to say, that's BS and I know it, you're lying to me. And so staying positive, I think, is about being honest about your emotions, and then saying, this is not forever. Because our greatest fear is that when we're suffering, that it's going to last forever. And so I think the key to positivity, especially now, is just telling yourself the truth about how you feel, and then recognizing that it's not forever. It's just a temporary glitch in whatever universe we're in. And Mike Riley said something really cool to me one day. He said, you know what, Meredith, triathlon will always be there for you. And we were talking in the context, he's like, when's your next race? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just lifting weights right now. And I said, I don't know when I'll do it again. And he said, it'll be there when you're ready. And right now, it's not there necessarily in reality, but it will. This sport, whatever it is, whatever sport you're doing, will always be there. It's just, you have to be creative right now. So the mindset is about being positive. This is temporary. It's going to all be okay.
Right, right. And then maybe finding new things to be positive about or to get into. You know, I found myself now running more than I ever did before. And
Right.
that has been kind of fun and sort of like I'm sort of grabbing onto that as something that I almost feel I'm becoming more and more dependent on. I mean, I used to always run, a few times a week, but I'm doing it more regularly, and I'm finding it to be a little more therapeutic than I think I did before.
Yeah, and you can use the time, obviously, to, and we can talk about this under, staying active, but fixing your weaknesses, right? And not doing that in a sort of pressurized sort of way, but just like, hey, I should have been squatting more. I'm going to squat some more.
Yeah.
And staying positive that way.
Right, right. About adapting, what's changed with you? You're a very busy woman. You've got a lot going on. Your book, the Year of No Nonsense. I'm sure that's impacted your book tour and another.
Oh yeah.
How have you kind of adapted to that and evolved accordingly?
Yeah. It was a big adaptation, because adaptation, because I was in the middle of my book tour, and my book tour, I still had the biggest part left, what part of which was race mania. So you feel the pain.
Yeah.
And so adapting is, if there's anything good about the situation, it's that it's a universal problem. We're all sort of going through it, which I think is hard, but also nice, because it's like, I can't do anything about this. So admitting what is in my control and what is not has been a big part of adapting. I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about the fact that Amazon is delaying the shipment of any purchases of my book till May. It's
Oh,
like, it's killing, because they have to prioritize things. They have to prioritize food and toilet paper and that kind of stuff. But it's maddening to a new author. You're like, well, your worth is counted on people buying books. And so I'm like, everyone buy the Kindle, or, contact your local bookstore. But recognizing that I can't control that. I can't control it. So how do I adapt? Okay, what can I do? Well, I'm at home. I can do these daily meetups, which I did for 3 straight weeks. Every day I was available on Zoom for an hour. I had guests, I had people, to just meet. And I'm like, I can do that. And maybe if they like me enough, they'll buy the Kindle or maybe they won't,
right.
And also adapting has been with workouts. I have been a notorious gym equipment hoarder for years, and I've taken a lot of heat from my husband about it. He's like, do you really need all this? We joined a gym. Why do you have all this? And I'm like, I don't know. I might need it one day. And so, yeah, we're using that now. But, adapting your workouts. And again, I think it all goes back to mindset. I can't have my favorite things. I can't go on my favorite book tour. I can't do all these talks I want to do. What can you do? You can adapt. You can take your voice to another platform. You can move your body in a new way, and just recognize that life is not linear. This is
Right.
about the ups and downs.
Yeah. And well, I think that's a great example. Just the daily meetup, the community meetup was a great idea. I saw you had some fabulous guests just recently, Tony Hawk among many others. And that certainly gets at staying connected and finding new ways of connecting. I mentioned before I spoke with Emily Saul, who's a sports psychologist, who leads the November Project in Boston. And she was telling me about their workouts, which of course now they have to do them virtually, but it's actually in some ways bringing out more people because they couldn't be there before. So
Right.
things like the meetup are great. How else are you connecting with people that maybe you hadn't been doing before?
I'm trying to go on daily walks, and I call them walk and talks. And I try and call someone that I don't normally talk to on the phone, or I talk to my clients and my athletes on a weekly basis instead of maybe once a month where which we normally did. I'm like, hey, here's my calendar, book a 15-minute slot. Let's talk every week. And so just forcing, and I think when you look at that, it's actually such a great time to really assess what is important and who's important and what's not important. And so, yeah, I'm trying to stay connected by purposely, setting an intention to reach out to people and to really think about people who are, who I say are luckily alone right now, but, grass is always greener. It's, we're confined with our families, but some people are alone, and that's isolating and hard. And so I try and reach out to all my single friends, single by choice, single by design, or not, and just check in with them, because I know this is an especially hard time.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've seen a lot of that too. I thought I've been reached out to by people just, that normally you just kind of knew they were always there. And maybe you, all of a sudden you find 6-9 months go by before you catch up with them. But now you're kind of having more frequent sort of check-ins, even if it's just a simple text.
Yeah.
So in some ways you feel a little more connected to a lot more people than you did,
Right.
before, which is a positive, for sure.
Yeah, and I heard somewhere, so I can't take credit for this, and anyone that knows me is like, oh, that's what she's doing, and it may give away one of my secrets, but I heard somewhere you should go to the bottom of your text messages every month and start at the bottom and check in on the people from the bottom. And so I don't do it once a month. I always check it on holidays. But that's a way that if you're looking for connection, a lot of people wait for others to reach out, and that's not the way to connect. You got to sometimes be the one to reach out. But if you're looking for a way to do that and who to reach out to, go to the bottom of your text messages and start there, because yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. I haven't heard that before. Excellent. Okay, so that brings us to our last part. I know you've got, you just told me you've got a lot of gym equipment in the house. Gyms that you could go to even if you are a member, because those are all shut down. So how are you still, being active, and how's that changed? And I know you mentioned, you are coaching some athletes. How are you helping them to, stay motivated? Because I guess that's really a big part of it. The continued training part is really about still staying motivated if you don't have maybe that race that you were, really gearing up for, that was going to be in June or, May, the Boston Marathon or whatever it might be.
Right. I think the first step is to focus on what you have. And if you don't have the equipment, then you don't have the equipment. It doesn't matter. And you can take a lot of cues from people in prison. And this is a weird thing to say, but I interviewed the Reverend Jeffrey Grant. He spent time in prison, and he became very strong and flexible and amazing in prison on nothing but body weight workouts. And this is kind of a strange concept, but we are sort of locked in, and it's again focusing on what you can do, and we can do a lot with just our body weight or some bands and a set of dumbbells and the sidewalk to run on, or a treadmill. And especially, I think swimmers are the ones that are suffering the most because it's just, you can't recreate that as much, but it's a great opportunity to, and this is what I'm doing with a lot of my athletes, assess the weaknesses. This is almost an off season. And no one ever does in their off season what they plan. And so I'm like, you get an off season redo right now.
Right.
This is the time to get our legs stronger. This is the time to activate those dead glutes that we've been talking about for 3 seasons. Or as a swimmer, your form may be great, but you're weak. So let's build some upper body strength. And you can do that with a band tied to the door, So it's just about being creative, finding out what equipment they do have and how we can use it. And if I did have one athlete who said, these workouts just aren't hard enough. And I said, okay, all you have to do is every minute throw in 5 burpees. And she was real sorry she said anything, because now we do a lot of burpees, and all of a sudden the workouts are pretty hard. Yeah.
Good adaptation.
And it's, again, I think letting go of expectations. Everything is different now. The world is not the same. We don't know if it will ever be the same again. Right. So let go of the expectation that you're going to have your gym, your pool, instead assess what you do have, and how can we move forward, and how can we get stronger. And there's a ton of resources out there. Every major gym, fitness center YouTuber is putting out content for at-home workouts right now. I started doing it really early, and then when Orange Theory and the bigger ones started doing it, I was like, I'm out. Y'all don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
You've got a library.
Right.
But it's about attitude, about mindset, and your desire to figure out a way. And triathletes and endurance athletes have been doing that. Like, that is our signature, is finding a way. So let go of the hard-headedness and just find a way. It's there.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Really appreciate Meredith coming on today. Any parting words of advice for those that'll be tuning in, just to keep that chin up and keep going?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. So the book that I released is called The Year of No Nonsense, and this has been the year of the most nonsense ever. And so I'm calling it the year of all the nonsense. But the main thing that I talk about in that book is just about getting rid of your own personal nonsense, and how we're all standing in our own way in some regard. And so the parting words I would have would be, take this time to really assess what is important and what you're doing to stand in your own way, because this is the time. People are saying, well, it's time to relax and stop putting so much pressure on yourself, that you need to write a novel, that you need to save the world. And I don't necessarily mean that, but this is a time for introspection. This is a time to start that meditation habit. You don't have any excuses to not do the things you've been wanting to do. So pinpoint some of the stuff that you're doing that's nonsense, and work to get rid of that during this time, and you'll come out better on the other side. We may all be a little fatter, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot more people. I see a lot more people out there running and riding than so I don't know. Some might come out the other side.
Yeah, and that would be great. I mean, I would enjoy that, but I just feel like I'm a little too close to the snacks all day.
Right. Well, thanks again, Meredith. Really great chat.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And hopefully we'll be together soon at Race Mania and around, just out and about.
Right. Well, let's hope we'll have some races before the summer gets over, and they'll be here before we know it.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Good seeing you, Meredith. Thanks again.
Okay.